Thank you very much for being part of this event and for organizing such an important conference. I am a political scientist and I do research mainly related to disinformation, propaganda and hybrid warfare. But this topic is, of course, very, very connected, and we have heard a lot of connecting ideas today. So I will not repeat all of them, and I will give you some context of Central Europe and Czech Republic especially, because we are dealing with very similar problems, and probably we can find also solutions in taking count Czech experience. We all witnessed some symptoms of the crisis, like a refusal of scientific consensus and of scientific denialism, and the COVID was sort of accelerator. We can daily see some increased deviation inside, some scientists joining sort of dark side of science. I mean that if you have like 100 scientists and they are claiming something or providing some truthful information, it's very easy to find just one having completely different opinion, getting public attention, media attention, and becoming part of disinformation ecosystem, and having relevance for some people, regardless the validity of information. So we in COVID experienced the lower importance of scientific recommendations, which was time to time ignored by political leaders or at societal level as a result of belief in conspiration theories, for example, or low level in science in general. These trends are fueled by presence of disinformation and misinformation, spread of conspiracy theories. I will talk about it a little bit later, and of course populism in politics, highlighting that people shall trust in common sense, which is sometimes contradictory to scientific knowledge. And of course, some scientists are experiencing personal attacks and public questioning of integrity. Tel Amiel before me, he said very interesting example about pressure against some sciences. But this is also interdisciplinary issue, especially people in social science. They face sometimes criticism for representing pseudosciences or something like this from scientific community linked to natural sciences and so on. Despite in social sciences we are also using like statistic regression models, very large samples and so on. So sometimes it's misunderstanding inside the scientific community that is like promoting competition in between science and unnecessary polarization. Czech Republic is not, let's say, unique. I have taken this from a special Eurobarometer. Do you think that the overall influence of science and technology on society is? And majority of people said it's positive, but you can see that some countries, they have a segment of society perceiving negative effect on the society. Of course, it's just one answer, and maybe a little bit ambiguous because they are asking of science and technology. I believe that people trust more in science, but sometimes they are not very certain about technology effects. So like AI. So all societies are on different level of development, but they share some characteristic. And there are many factors behind these numbers. And for me personally, trust in science is correlated with disbelief or trust in conspiration theories. So here I have prepared another map from very interesting research showing beliefs in medical conspiracy theories linked to COVID. And here you can clearly see some dividing line between Western and Eastern Europe, especially Nordic countries are at a very, very good level. And it's maybe because of their education system, but clearly Eastern Europe is in worse numbers, and maybe it's because the inheritance of communism. This is quite specific because communism had effect on the people, and they teach them the distrust in public authorities, distrust in state, and we know from research that people who don't trust state, they have increasing tendency to trust conspiration theories. In the Czech Republic, we had a long-term feeling that trust in science is going down, and as I said, COVID-19 was accelerator, let's say. And very interesting is the case of Sonia Peková. Maybe you don't know her, but she is Czech molecular biologist and head of SIM laboratory. And she was the first one, or the most visible, who said that the virus was artificially created, is not of natural origin. She said that the virus is not important because it will disappear by Christmas 2020. She also claimed that vaccination is impossible to invent and absurd. Later on, she claimed that vaccination is potentially harmful. She provided reference to non-existing studies and so on. But she holds PhD in molecular biology, and with these controversial statements, joining the dark side of science, she became hero of conspiration webs and disinformation webs, receiving even some delusion stone award for people who are like spreading lies online. So Sonia Peková contributed to polarization of society, and she became hero of those who are against vaccination because she was, according to them, saying the truth. There are maybe some personal motivations why she did so. Maybe she believes in that as well. Now she's moving in esoteric dimension. Of course, is joining pro-Russian stances in media. And this is not surprising because science is attacked as a target by Russian hybrid warfare in Central and Eastern Europe. There is one simple reason why. We know that people who are unhappy in life, they are voting for the political extreme, like far left or far right, and these political parties are usually in line with Russian foreign policy interests, exit from European Union, exit from NATO, adoring Russian Federation, and so on. And simply, if you distrust people in science, in public authorities, you promote polarization, you are promoting extreme, and you are creating environment supportive of radical parties. So that's why we have witnessed that anti-immigration webs changed very quickly to anti-vaccination webs, and from anti-vaccination webs it turned to webs supporting Russia in war against Ukraine. And these webs are behind promotion of conspiracy theories and disbelief in science. And this is different understanding of weaponization of science. These are like the specifics of Central and Eastern Europe. In Czech Republic, we had some studies. For example, we discovered that vaccination of those who felt being part of democratic Europe was almost 90% in 21, but vaccination rate among those who felt not being part of democratic Europe was slightly beyond 50%. So there is like 40% gap in between these two groups, and of course it's not about being part of Europe and European Union, but it's about trust in public institutions and public authorities. And Czech case is not very specific. We can talk about similar situation in other countries where anti-vaccination attitude was raised by far right or populists. I think in France it was Le Pen who criticized compulsory vaccination. In Italy it was Five-Star Movement criticizing compulsory vaccination. Kotleba, the Nazi far-right politician in Slovakia, he compared vaccination to Nazi practices, limiting the freedom of people. And there are many more examples around Europe. I have to mention that these attitudes going against science are on daily basis in Czech cyberspace, especially in the form of memes. For example, the groups of mothers, they are filled with content related to children, like don't forget what they did in the name of science. And there are two children standing in front of locked toy house. There are anti-vax groups present still on Facebook or other social networks, showing stories of people who become disabled after vaccination. But it's not only about COVID. It's also about other topics from previous eras, as mentioned by Professor Ruana Borbalan. For example, there are a lot of disinformation about climate change, or what is very popular in the Czech Republic is a list of people who believe that the Earth is flat. And it went too far in the Czech Republic. There was very interesting debate. It was intended to confront science with conspiracy theory, and according to my opinion, it went wrong, because it was a discussion, of course, recorded and broadcasted, and there were invited 4 scientists, like physicians or people from aviation industry on one hand, and on the other hand, there were people who were conspiracy theorists. And they started this very weird discussion, and of course, scientific authorities, they time to time admitted, well, we don't know, we cannot prove that. So they admitted some gaps in science, what we don't know. And on the other side, you have these conspiracy theorists, and they had immediate answer for everything, and acting very, very persuasively. So people who watched this show, this debate, it was not about facts. It was more about presentation style and emotions and so on. And they might have impression that maybe both of the groups have a good argument to say, which was, of course, the wrong attitude, how to deal with conspiracy theories, because scientists are usually not very well prepared public speakers and presenters. So there are like many consequences. I will slowly finish. Now the science is in defensive position and becoming more involved in advocacy. It depends on the field, of course, but we can see it in social sciences quite a lot. There are like direct and indirect negative effects. Now we have elections in the Czech Republic, populists, they won elections, and we know that there will be some cuts in investment into the universities, into the science and research, and some elected representatives, they have deep beliefs in conspiration theories. So there is another consequence of emergence of these experts on dark side due to personal interest or some economic incentives, because some scientists, they have their private businesses, and there is increased need for justification, explanation, and communication of science to bridge the gap. What is the possibility to get out? I think the response is science popularization and the new role of scientists. Universities in the Czech Republic are now working intensively in European Science Engagement Association. They are helping universities to promote science and communicate science. There are usually public engagement units as a separate part of universities. There are people responsible for promoting science and scientific results. There is support from university personnel in general. And I think good way is to integrate science popularization into the national funding schemes. That not only delivering some important results, but also strategy how to communicate them effectively. And it means also new role for scientists. We have adapted European strategy for universities, and there is this role highlighted in support for transnational cooperation. And I think this conference is a really good example how this problem might be communicated. There is a call for institutional support for open science, for example, or communication with public. We are asked, for example, to establish our social networks and communicate on social networks what we are doing, actually, and communicate results of our research. And in generally is the development of this third role of universities, what was mentioned at the beginning when this panel was opened. And the last idea from my part is a quote I prepared in inspiration with George Santayana, who said that a society that turns away from scientific knowledge is not only blind to the future, but is condemned to relive the mistakes of the past. In other words, when you are not following scientific progress, it's making you getting down and going back to misery. Thank you very much for your attention.